Hey, welcome back. So this is the start of a new unit, but it's actually kind of the start of a new track as well. And what we're going to be doing is instead of just learning about Angular and Firebase for making websites, we're going to actually be learning about the Ionic framework. So the Ionic framework is one of many tools that are used to create iOS and Android apps from a single code base. So like from a single web app, you make an iOS app that can be posted to the iOS store. You make an Android app that can be posted to the Google Play Store, and you do it all with one code base. So you can see why these cross-platform tools are popular. And we're going to take a little bit of time to learn about this one called Ionic. Other ones that are popular, NativeScript is also popular. There's pros and cons of how they're different. Ionic is more like it makes a website, and then the native apps, it's really just it presents a web view, and then that's inside of it. And the thing I like about that approach, and the reason I picked Ionic, is that then you can make an iOS app and an Android app, and then also a progressive web app, and it all works well, whereas NativeScript works a little differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one of these things together. We're going to start off simple. We're going to make a favorite thing. So we've made a favorite things before using just Angular and Firebase. Now we're going to make Ionic favorite things is our goal. If you want to, you can visit this link. I've got it up here in another tab. And you can see what this thing looks like that we're making. So what it is it's kind of meant to be an app. So it's kind of like a website that somebody would visit on your phone or actually as an app. And what you get to do is you get to pick what your favorite color is. So if you click on blue here, it'll change the box to blue or green or red or purple or rose red. And then it's also got a favorite number that you can kind of take up and down. And the thing that makes Ionic really interesting is, so this is Chrome right here. And then this is an iOS app. And it really is like an iOS app, like you hit home. It's got like an icon and a name. They're not set, it just says my app, but it really is just an app. And I can click on things in the iOS app, and you can see that it's talking to the Firebase backend, and everybody else updates. This guy over here is an Android app. You can see that there's little differences even in something this simple of these different devices. So right now this is just kind of running on my phone. So as I hit green, they all go to green, or rose red. Reset the number to 0, whatever I want to do. And this combination of being able to, use Firebase to keep things together and being able to make an app that deploys on all these different platforms is a really cool thing. So I wanted to show you Ionic. To be honest, I don't really expect you to use Ionic for your projects, but it is something that I kind of wanted to show you. So in this video, we're just going to do some of the little basic setup things that you'll need to do to get started. Since this is your first app, there's gonna be some time getting set up on things. The first thing you need to do is you do need to sign up to be an Ionic developer on Ionic Framework. So I'm already a developer on Ionic Framework, and I already have things in there, so I don't have to worry about that step, but you will have to do that. So you can click on that link from the doc. Other things that you'll have to do is you'll have to do the tools install. So let's just go ahead and have you start the tools install. And in order to do the tools install, you'll have to run this command, npm install -g for global Ionic Cordova. So you'll just have to put that into a terminal window. I've already run it. I've already got Ionic and Cordova installed. Cordova is like the low-level tool that does the cross-compiling as iOS and Android. And then Ionic is a wrapper that sits on top of Cordova. So Cordova is an open source thing, been around for a lot of years. And then Ionic sits on top of it that lets you use Angular for your development. And it's really neat. So go ahead and run that and kick it off. I'm just going to talk to you for a little bit more before I catch up on things I'll do. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare and contrast what we did before to what we're about to start doing. So we use a lot of tools in this class. The first one is Angular. Technically it's Angular 2 or 4 or whatever. And with Ionic, we're going to still be using Angular, so that didn't change. We've been using Firebase and Angular Fire 2, and with Ionic, we're going to still use those same tools, Firebase, Angular Fire tools, so no change. So I think it's really neat. The core of what you've learned about is directly applicable. It's going to be the same skills with Ionic. Visual Code Studio and Chrome for development, Visual Code Studio and Chrome for development, same. Now the differences start. So before you've been using the Angular CLI, you've said things like ng-new or ngg. Those are all going away. We're going to start using the Ionic command line interface. Same concepts, but just different command names. So that one's pretty easy. For the look of our apps, we've been using Angular Material 2 and Flex Layout. Those are completely going away, and we're going to be replacing them with Ionic components. The Ionic components are really good. If you just go look at like Ionic components docs, or sorry, Ionic framework docs, and you go into components, you can see a ton of their components, and they do a really nice job of kind of showing you what they can do. So like they've got components like action sheets, and this is a website. It just kind of looks like the native app, which I think is cool. Things like alerts. So alerts are dialogues. And you can see that they make their components look correct for the right platform, which is really cool. So we're not going to be using Angular Material anymore. We're going to be using their components. It's interesting that it says iOS, Android, and Windows. Windows is now deprecated. They said they're going to stop supporting the Windows Phone. And so, yeah, there's all these things that you can do and all kinds of fun components, which we'll learn about as we go. The other changes are that the Angular router does not get used with Ionic. I was kind of disappointed about that one. I kind of like the Angular router, but instead we're going to be using Ionic's page navigation stack, and we'll learn about that. It's a little bit different. And then the big difference is previously we could do web deployment only, whereas now we can deploy it as an iOS app that we could put on the iOS store, an Android app that we could put on Google Play Store, and then we could also make it a website as well. You can still do that. And people like these because that's an opportunity to reach a market and potentially grow your revenue that you can do. So here's like what our app looks like as a website on an iPad in this example, and then on my Nexus 5. So perhaps by now it's finished running that command. It takes a while, so maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, of this install of Ionic and Cordova. If it has, we're ready to do the next steps. We're going to create a project in Git. So you can go to Ada or GitHub, doesn't matter to me, and make a project called Ionic Favorite Things. And then if you want to put in a description, it's this just kind of like our first app using Ionic. And create my project there. And then I'm going to do a git clone on my computer using this link. So I'm going to go into the folder that I want to put things in. I'm going to say git clone, and I'm going to paste that link. If you're doing things in GitHub, it might be slightly different. And then you go into that empty folder. And now you type, before this is where you would type ng-new, but now we're going to type Ionic start. And again, you know about things like this because of their documentation page. So it's just Ionic Framework Docs. And the CLI has all kinds of things in here. So one of them is the start command. So when you do the start command, you say Ionic start. You give your project a name, and then you say what template you want. We're going to go with the blank template. By default, you get the tabs template. And then you can add other options if you want. One is you can add on this option to say --git. We're going to do that option as well. So we're going to type Ionic start favorite things blank, and then I'm going to add the word git onto here. So go into that git folder and go ahead and run this command. And much like the Angular CLI used to do, it goes ahead and runs npm install, and it warns you that it could take several minutes. While that's doing its thing, what I normally do is I go make a spot in Firebase console. You can also get Visual Code Studio opened up. The Firebase console, if you want to make a new project, I'm totally fine with that. You can see that I did. I called it Ionic Favorite Things. But if you want to use your old Favorite Things app, that's fine. If you choose to use your old one, the database rules are already set up for true. But if you choose to use a new, like create a new project, make sure that you do go in and set up your database rules to true. Putting quotes on here is optional, by the way. Mine has some data in it. I'm going to go ahead and delete that data just to kind of start things off as a fresh slate. Great, so now I've got a place in the Firebase console where this is going to go, and hopefully it's come back from developing the app. It says, do you want it to put it in your dashboard? Don't care. I'll say yes. Great, so it says that I've got a newly created project called Favorite Things. So in Visual Code Studio, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say File Open, and I'm going to navigate to my Favorite Things. Normally we open up the Angular folder, but for this I'm going to actually open up the Git folder. So this is different from what we did before. And the reason I'm opening the outer folders, I think that it makes the Git stuff work better. Cool, so I come into here, I can see that Favorite Things has all kinds of code and things in it. And what I want to do is I want to see if it's going to work. So I come back over to Terminal, and I say Ionic Serve. So that's normally where I would have said ng serve, but now I'm going to say Ionic Serve. Oops, I've got to go into the Favorite Things folder and type Ionic Serve. It's going to give me a better chance of success. Another thing that CLI chooses to do is it actually just opens up the web page for you. So whenever you type Ionic Serve, it's just going to launch Chrome for you, and it'll say Ionic blank, the world is your oyster. Typically when I'm doing Ionic development, I view it as a mobile device, just because that's what looks the best. And if you wanted to make one minor change, you could go into Source, Pages, Home, and you can change the word Ionic blank to Favorite Things. And once you save that up, you should be able to see that it says Favorite Things at the top. Next, I want to do a git check-in of everything, but it looks like it didn't really work right. Perhaps I should have opened the other folder. I should have opened the inner folder after all. Hate it when things don't work well, but life goes on. And so here I can see that one change, and so I'll just say update home page. All right, so we got a new project working. It says Favorite Things to the top, and I'm happy enough with that. All right, we'll see you next time where we start actually adding things. Bye.